Michael Karanja. Now, the Insurance Regulatory Authority says that 11 out of the 20 insurance companies that offer medical are actually subject to medical fraud. And just to address this current situation, I'm now joined by Catherine Karori Busire, the General Manager of Jubilee Insurance, and Dr. Edward Rikwaro, the Head of Medical at CIC Insurance. Gent, when you just look at medical fraud in Kenya, just how bad is it? Perhaps I'll start with you, Catherine.
There was a recent report and where it is stipulated that between 20 to 40% of claims are actually fraudulent. Yeah. In many perspectives, you have the outright fraud where somebody comes in, pretends somebody they are not, and gets treatment using an insurance client's card. You find others where the providers are overbilling, over-testing, giving unnecessary service, or even things that they're not necessarily providing. Yeah. Simple examples, at the pharmacy, the doctor puts in, or rather, pharmacist gives generic drugs, but charges for branded. Yeah. So we are in a situation as an industry whereby it's what you call the economics of survival. Yeah. To have insurance clients, because clients are not as many, and when they're in the business, instead of looking at the long-term survival of the insurance industry and the long-term survival of the clients and ability, yeah, they need to make money. So we are running into problems of high fraud, and of course the insurance industry is the one that's making the losses. As you have seen with IRA, the industry losses are running way into 600 million plus. So
let's look at that. Dr. Rikwaro, when you were hired by CIC, I remember I was there when the retired National Courier was saying that it takes a doctor to understand what doctors are talking about. Just looking at that, you're a doctor. So how bad is that kind of practice? Is it a doctor's? Is it a problem on the doctor's side, or is it on the insurance side?
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. It is true that the industry is wrought with fraud. Yeah. I think that we cannot run away from. But the fraud is not just from the medical side of it. Yeah. You have a collusion, because to have fraud, you must have a collusion between the provider and also the client. And sometimes also from our side, as we've always accepted, there could be an internal aspect to the fraud. But when you talk about the provider, generally speaking, knows what it is that you're suffering from. Yeah. When you visit a provider, it could be because of an ache, a pain, or whatever it is that you go to see the provider. That is what starts off the possible fraud. Yeah. Because then the provider, again, what we call provider-induced demand, knows what it is that you may be suffering from, and therefore can cause a demand or a consumption that may not be necessarily needed. So just in the same way that maybe when you go to Nakumatt, for example, or any of the supermarkets, yeah, and you buy maybe bread or milk or something, you know how much you need to consume. Medical behaves in a very different way, because you don't know what you're going to consume. So if the doctor says that you need an MRI or a CT scan or any other test that he thinks you require, yeah, he can drive your consumption beyond what you really have consumed. And that's not necessarily fraud, that's what you call over-servicing. So fraud is compounded then, deliberate fraud where you expect somebody to be gaining financially, yeah, is compounded by what we call over-servicing. So it becomes much more complicated than just fraud.
When I look at the two of you here, obviously two contrasting scenarios when it comes to medical insurance. Yeah. Last financial results, a bit stagnant when it comes to profitability, generally due to what was happening in the medical division. Profit growth with basic underwriting growth when it came to medical. When you just look at the two, and I'll start with you, Edward, perhaps how bad is it when you look at from your perspective as CIC Insurance?
Well, I think we need to look at it from two perspectives. One is how much do we charge our clients in terms of premium, and then how much do we pay out in terms of claims. When we look at the premium side, what we charge our clients, that is basically dictated primarily from some estimates that we have from our actuarial people who calculate and look at the mathematics of estimates and predictions of what we expect populations to have based on the demographics, the age grouping and things like that. But then, so that becomes a premium. Now what we have there is a scenario where as competitors we are not being very reasonable, whereby price X is charged by company X, company Y charges X premium or Y premium. Now that's fine. It would all be fine if the claims end up okay. For example, if maybe because of the discounts we have from various providers, depending on our negotiation with those providers, yeah, if Jubilee and Catherine here specifically has certain good arrangements with their providers, because of maybe early payments and things like that, and maybe company Y doesn't have that, then you'll find that there's a mismatch between the premiums and the claims, and that's basically what ends up then having either a profit or a loss.
So, Catherine, are you a good deal maker? Is that the story?
Yes, anyway. I think it's really, I agree with Rukwaro in terms of what he's saying.
Yeah.
And we're in a really difficult situation as an industry, and probably that is why we are in the situation we are in. But I think one of the things as Jubilee Insurance look at is really the underwriting and the pricing of these policies. Yeah. As he has said, at the end of the day, through the actuarial support and the business and the actuarial price, we know how many times somebody will go to hospital. On average, we know the statistics. We know the average cost of treatment. We know what the right price should be. But a situation where this market is competitive, and the last time I was here I said, you know, you're dealing with a population of clients that is so small, always chasing the same client portfolio. So we end up in a situation of price wars. We are always undercutting each other. We know that at the end of the day, by the time you put in this price, you'll either make money or not make money. So what happens? The math plays out. The game of the math plays out, and you end up in an underwriting loss. So what really needs to happen to be able to buy about fraud, but the other challenge that is on the other side is about wrong pricing. We need to be able to look at it and come back to the right principles of underwriting and have the clients appreciate that. Let's not have the clients, and through our education to the clients, let's not have them chasing a price, because you know, he knows that when a tender is opened, you either win on price or you lose on price. This is a client I have had, lowest price bidder of government tenders comes out that the lowest bidder will obviously win the business. So all of us are at a particular price point. If we can be able to come out of there as an industry, then we'll be in a better position. And that's really what we pursue at Jubilee. We don't necessarily go for the lowest. Sometimes we have to pass on business. It must also it must be long-term sustainable. We have clients we've had for 20 years, and the clients understand that really this is a relationship of not looking at an underwriter going down tomorrow, because several of us, if we don't watch out, will be closing this shop. But looking at what is the long-term sustainability. The client needs to understand these claims pattern are, as long as I go to the hospital, this is what I can expect. And, you know, even educating clients, because the other day, we always tell clients the most prevalent ailment is coughs and colds. Choose. You can either go, it's like getting a cup of tea. You can either get a cup of tea at the 5-star hotel or a 3-star or a restaurant. It's the same.
Or make it at home.
Or make it at home. So if you're dealing with a cough and a cold, you have to choose where you want to get it is at an average price of 7,000, 6,500 or 4,500. So making wise decisions and educating clients and allowing them to see that long-term sustainability and what it does for them, I think will also be a game changer, because hopefully and possibly it will also allow them to see that fraud and what they propagate, because like he said, and I agree, it's not just a situation of the provider being fraudulent, it's also the members. If they can look at it as a long-term sustainable policy, then they can invest in it as well. Overall effect, cost for all of us begins down. So that's what we do differently at Jubilee Insurance, to look at the long-term sustainability, and that's what profitability.
So many insurance companies, and you're all chasing, perhaps penetration last I checked was about 5% for medical insurance.
Even
Look at medical insurance, say you have a ratio of about 81%. Then what structures then would you put as a medical insurance provider to make sure that start mitigating some of these losses? More or less now you can almost account for you can almost predict your losses.
Because we have a common interest in this one, and it's not even competitive as such. Basically, what you need is a robust system, because the transactions are very many, especially the outpatient transactions. So you need a very good IT system to be able to understand where things are going. Either on you want to understand the providers and how they sure that you mitigate that loss. Then you also want to look at specific clients, because clients who have trends that are in the wrong direction. Maybe in the wrong direction genuinely because maybe there's an illness pattern in that particular client, but also because there could be fraud, as we are talking about today. And it's a genuine thing because, again, the fraud, like I said, could be because of the provider themselves or the client themselves being unwell, or a combination of the provider and client working together towards enhancing some of the claims that you're seeing. What you need to invest is that IT system. Again, you need to invest in staff. It's critical that you have staff who are of the right and quality.
Yeah.
You have now a lot of medical people coming in to work within the insurance environment. And again, you need expertise. You need some, maybe nurses, you need somebody, doctor, so that you look at it, because fraud could be coming from any of those aspects of the medical service given. So you must invest in staff. So IT staff, and then of course at the end of the day, you need to be able to have people on the ground at the basic areas of fraud. Is it the right patient who is being treated? Are they being treated quickly enough? Is there, as they get in and out of hospital, are they being given the right things? They're getting in and out quickly, because I know a genuine patient will definitely want to be treated quickly, in and out as fast as possible, because again, within the hospital environment, stay longer, even your chances of getting a hospital infection, because a hospital is not necessarily is higher. So you want to be in and out as quickly as possible. So once we look at that perspective and invest in that, our chances of removing fraud or over-servicing are much higher.
How do you remove over-servicing from the hospital? Because I mean, if I go with something I believe is perhaps what, a chest cold, but the doctor feels something more that needs to be done, maybe it might have bronchitis or might have A, B, C, D, then how then do you, just to go back to you, Doctor?
Yes. Fortunately or unfortunately, the medical science is not black and white.
Yeah.
It's not always that it's either this or that. And in a similar way, maybe if you go to a garage, the person who's servicing you, your car, will give you an estimate. It may get lower or higher. So in the same way, medical science, when you come in with symptoms, maybe a cough, chest pain or something like that, or a fever, it may be leading towards pneumonia, but very easily it could be something else. It could even be something going towards cancer. So to give you an estimate becomes difficult. However, with that investment, invest in quality